Actually, this is my dad, and he died when I was 20. I was in college. I was going into my junior year, but before that, he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and I was 14. And that was really when all of this started in our lives. And it was a really tough process because I was in high school and I didn't really think anyone else had a parent who had cancer. It's not exactly something you advertise, so you're kind of walking through the halls by yourself, and that was really hard. So this is one of my favorite memories. We went to LBI every summer. We had a house there, and we would bring our dogs, and we would just run on the beach all day, and it was a way for my dad to de-stress from work. He was a lawyer, and he just loved being there with us, and you could see that being a family man was the most important thing in his life.
Give your heart and change your mind. You're allowed to do it, 'cause God knows it's been done to you, and somehow you got through.
So I had one truly amazing friend in high school, and our situations were really similar, and when we found each other, it was amazing. There's some things that are really helpful to do when you have a friend who has a parent who's sick, and I think the thing that helped me the most was when someone would just come over and we would just hang out, and then we'd talk about it a little bit, but maybe not a lot, and we would just do the fun things that we like to do and enjoy each other's company, and then they would be really caring and say, "So how's your dad doing?" Be very good listeners. On the flip side, there are people who are really unsupportive, really just didn't understand what was going on, and looking back, I can't be too angry about that because they were in high school and had their own issues going on too, and that was really tough, and I ended up losing a lot of friends over that. So both times that I went back after my dad's diagnosis, because he was diagnosed when I was 14 and it was during the summer, so then I was starting my sophomore year of high school, that was really tough because some of the teachers had a hard time understanding the depth of how emotional it was for me. And then some teachers were really great. My guidance counselor was amazing, but there were a few teachers in high school who kind of brushed it off. My dad was diagnosed with colon cancer, and that is considered something that's pretty treatable, but what they didn't know is that he had stage 4. So I had a lot of teachers come up and be like, "It's only colon cancer, it's okay, he'll get through it," but they didn't know that it really was a death sentence for him. I did have one professor who told me that my life wasn't as bad as hers at 20, because she had been moving around to foster cares at that point and kind of all on her own. She was over 18, and she just said to me, "At least like you had a dad," which is something that's so hurtful because maybe it's true to some extent, and I know that I'm lucky to have him for the 20 years I did compared to some of the kids I'd imagine who were 8 or 5 or 3 when their dad died, but you want more years. It's just, you can't help it.
Submarine ride.
We're definitely sensitive to it. We definitely understand that when something happens that, that's, for many people, that's the most important thing in their life at that moment. And, we want students to be educated. We want them to, have great relationships. We want them to have character development, be critical thinkers, all those things that are part of a daily, our daily educational goals here. But that's not going to happen when somebody is grieving the loss. And grief is experienced in a lot of different ways, and I want our faculty to be sensitive to that. So it's really on who it impacts, and that's part of what the grief training is to understand what that person's going through, to show empathy, to show compassion wherever possible. And I think we do a good job at that, but there's always room for improvement.
3 years ago in the summer, I was trained to be a facilitator at Imagine. It was probably one of the best things that I did for myself and for the community, but it's definitely something that kind of overlaps into my work with students.
It's one of those things that a typical education program for educators doesn't really focus in on. And so when I first started here at Westfield High School, I had lost a student. It was very difficult as a teacher to cope with that, and then also to help the students. You know, when you lose a student, there's nothing that really prepares you for that other than the loss that you've experienced in your own life. Teacher education programs don't really tend to focus on issues like that, and so it was very difficult, and I've lost several students in my career, not only dealing with personally the loss, but also ways in which I could help my students. I think there's definite value in training teachers and having that as part of our training, as part of an in-service or something like that, because it is one of those issues that's difficult to talk about. You know, people have different feelings about that and they cope with loss differently. So I think having that training for the teachers is really very important. And then also we spoke about having training for the students, maybe making it a part of their health education, taking some time out to talk about this very difficult issue, because it is so important to talk about it before something might happen in their own lives. So to kind of have that understanding and think about maybe some techniques to cope with loss.
As one of the things that I get a chance to go out and do in the community is teach students in the schools, teachers, parents, and really anyone who works with people who might be grieving, to help them know what to do and what to say, and also what not to do and what not to say when someone's grieving any kind of loss. So not just loss due to death, but loss due to illness, loss due to divorce, loss due to a relationship ending, or any kind of injury. Students spend a huge part of their day in school. So there's a whole bunch of really caring teachers out there who are doing the very best they can, and they want to learn some very specific skills about how to support a student who's grieving. One of the things that when I train teachers is to help them listen to the behavior of their students, to check in with kids, how are they, asking how they're doing, and to know that that's okay to do, to know that ignoring it actually adds way more pain than if, for example, you may ask someone, how they're doing on a day and they just don't feel like talking. That's okay. The fact that you've paid attention to it is really going to help that child feel like they could come to you or someone else in the school and talk and get support if they needed it. When people are grieving, we get uncomfortable around them. And what I feel like is most important when someone is going through that is to just stay close by. A lot of times we get so uncomfortable ourselves that we will try to sort of avoid that person. When someone's hurting, there's nothing that we can do to take the pain away, but one of the things we can help with is the loneliness and the feeling of isolation that people are often having when they're grieving. So following someone's lead is one of the main things I remember, which means if they're having a good day, I'm going to have a good day with them. And if they're looking sad, I'm going to check on them and maybe say, it looks like you're having a rough day today, what's going on? And if they want to talk, I listen. And if they don't want to talk, I let them be there in the quiet. We say that at Imagine, fewer words make space for more feelings. So that gives us a chance when we're talking less and we're really just encouraging the other person to do whatever they need to do, that really allows them the space to feel whatever they're feeling. The best gift you can give someone who's grieving is to just let them feel. Just let them feel whatever they're feeling and be there.
I was a grief facilitator at Imagine for 2 years. So I went through the training. It was a 32-hour training, and then I've had some continuing education through them as well. There's definitely a need. I mean, every day we deal with our own grief that can filter into the classroom in ways we don't even realize sometimes. We have grief and loss of our students, some of whom are coming back after the loss of a parent or a sibling or a close friend, and how could that not affect their day-to-day activities in school? So we need to be present for them. We need to also let them come back into a normal school situation and not focus on it so much that they can't focus on what they need to focus on. So it's finding the balance. I think as teachers we need to find the balance of being there for our students and recognizing their loss, but also letting them just be students and return to a school environment. In fact, I had Connie Palmer from Imagine come and do some professional development work with our teachers, and I wish it was better attended. We had about 12 teachers there and guidance counselors, but we need a whole staff training on this, I believe.
Find your fire.